All right, good afternoon, good morning, whatever you may be watching this. Good to see you. I'm Jeff Smith. Want to introduce to you Father Jeff Rose. We're going to talk a little bit about marketing and advertising and how important a brand is. Father, I wanted to bring you on here because over the course of very many years, I know that you are the president of St. Francis de Sales School here in Toledo, and it has been important to kind of redefine what this school is all about. Obviously, over the years, finding students to come to the school has been a challenge. So let's talk about branding specifically.
Sure.
And from a perspective of using the media, how important is that?
Oh, it's just so critical. I mean, I say this often to media outlets here in the city. I always start by, look, I'm not looking for you to be our mouthpiece. You know, I know you've got a lot of things that you've got to cover, but if we're not partnering with local media, like to say, like, look, this is information we think is of value to everyone, as opposed to, can you give us some free publicity, right? Like, I think some of it is just that mindset. But so what we want to communicate about our brand that makes sense and is of value beyond our audience, I think, is really critical.
So when you look and you're kind of, I guess, putting stuff on the back burner, putting stuff on the front burner, and you say, we got to get on TV, we got to get on the radio, we got to get something online. How important is that right now?
Absolutely critical. You cannot presume any channel doesn't, you know, I think people want to say, oh, radio's dying, or, you know, whatever. You know, TV is so fractured now with so much online stuff. The reality is that the huge chunks of our audience are still engaged in that way. But so it's never an either or. I think it's both and.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Second question for you. As we look at business people, those who are in positions of power and need to get that message out, by and large, my definition is, I see it every day, they're bad at it. Why do you think that's the case?
I'm not sure. It just seems so obvious to me. So that when I started as president, and I had no prior administrative experience that way, and the school I was at before was not in a media market. There was no TV, a little bit of radio.
Yeah.
So I guess I was just kind of like, I'm a little surprised that I don't think people pick up on its huge value in terms of, if you're trying to communicate a brand, it's got to be consistent across any platform of what you're sharing. So whether that's an open house for a school to say, here's our open house and here's what we're saying, and here's what we're sharing with TV about a press release or an event like the symposium,
right.
Or, that it's a consistent brand so that those people get comfortable with going, oh yes, that's what St. Francis does, or that's what Owens Corning does, or so.
Is it important to have one talking head, or does it matter?
It maybe depends on the size of the organization. I think for us, we make a very intentional effort that I'm kind of the talking head. That's not to say that others, you know, like we're doing our science wing renovation. I don't have a science degree. Father Joe, our vice president, does.
Yeah.
He's the front person. But again, those things are named, because if you don't own it, then it becomes, oh, who's doing this?
Yeah.
It's got to be very intentional.
What makes a good interview?
I think preparation. You know, when I take students with me, and I learned this when I was student body president at Eastern Michigan. There was a couple times I had to do interviews with Detroit TV, and one was for a little student riot that happened on a weekend. And I remember
minor issue,
but I remember the university's like media division prepping me for it, you know, and not like in a manipulative way, but saying, like, it was, I don't know if you know the name Guy Gordon, but they're like, it's going to be Guy Gordon. Well, actually, it was going to be Bill Bonds, who was sort of the legend of Detroit. And they're like, here's his tendencies. He tends to want a gotcha question or something. So just to prep people. And so even like if I bring students on to talk about our Jamaica mission, I always say, what's the one thing that you want to make sure the audience hears? It's this. Okay, well then make sure you say that. You know, so I think prepping for an interview is huge, just to say, again, not manipulatively, but just to say, here's the one thing I want to make sure people understand about this event or this organization or this school.
You watch news?
I do.
Okay, so you watch news, you see people do interviews.
Yeah.
Do you think they all prep for it?
No. No, it's abundantly clear, and particularly students, you know, I think. But yeah, I'm shocked how many students, I mean, again, I think people when they watch an interview and see a student kind of stumble through it, they expect them to.
Right.
But they don't expect adults to, you know, be looking down or, you know, mumbling or, again, trailing off.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It
But
happens
again,
a lot.
it does. And it shows a lack of prep, that's for sure.
Would you benefit from somebody working with you to make it better? Having an organization come in and kind of, I guess, prepping you, doing that work for you?
I'll give you a little secret. I do.
Okay.
So not only would I benefit from it, I do that. And I'm benchmarking all the time. So whether that's Mud Hen's Walleye, to pick their brain, like, how do you do this? You know, which is, again, in one sense, a Catholic school and a professional sports team don't have a lot in common. but we're often chasing the same demographic. So, you know, I'm anyone that will give me 20 minutes, I'm going to take. But we also do work with professionals in marketing and media to say, you know, whatever it is, whether it's an emergency crisis plan so that we know how to communicate and avoid that dangerous no comment in the middle of a crisis. So yeah, we've done a lot.
What about social media? Are you making it up as you go, or is there a strategy to it?
We have a huge strategy, and we have some internal stuff that we do well, but we've also contracted with someone right here in town who does it for a number of companies so that you don't, you know, I think for an organization our size, a little smaller.
What do you mean by that? What are they doing? Are they posting for you? Are they taking information? How does it work?
It's a little bit of each. So let's say I'm in Jamaica and I post something on Instagram. He's watching our channel. So when he sees that, he'll then go put it on Facebook and Twitter, and so that he's helping us share. He'll repost, but he also has full-blown strategies that we've worked up in advance. So the symposium, we contracted, in addition to his sort of watching our channels, we came up with a whole strategy around how to promote the symposiums expressly on social media.
Does that go beyond hashtags? What does it do?
That's promoted posts, advertisements. Yeah, a very intentional strategy. And just as an example, what we're doing is, you know, there's 3 keynotes and about 12 breakout speakers. So he built out a month-long strategy to just share each speaker, their bio, what they're talking about. So again, no one in our office has to watch that.
Right.
That's happening by a professional.
And I noticed for that symposium, there is a specific Twitter page just for that alone.
Yep.
Okay. Do you think that would be consistent across the board, what you guys are doing, what you just explained there? And I'm talking not only major businesses, but also schools, public figures, cities, governments, townships, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think they do. And we have a couple of our graduates with Concentric helped us set this up years ago, but like a social media policy. And it's funny because a lot of people don't see the value of it, but it's like, look, as our official channels don't engage with students, we don't retweet, you know, like just keeping it at a professional level to say what this channel does is this. And so I don't see that across the board, you know, from other organizations. But I don't know that they've ever sat down to say, begin with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey might say, what do we want and then how do we get there?
Yeah.
And so it can frustrate parents because they want to create like a water polo Twitter account. But you're like, it starts to dilute your brand and people start going in 100 directions.
Dilute, water polo.
My best puns are never intended, but yes. But you know what I'm saying? Like, and so some parents get frustrated with us, but you got to say, you got to understand, whether it's making sure you're using the right colors or the right logo, like our nighthead faces one way, and another TV station in town did something and flipped it the other way, you know, just to go, hey, you know, you're not helping us with our brand, and it was just a mistake, you know. But again, if you don't call it to mind, then everyone goes, it doesn't matter.
Always watching.
Yeah.